Thank you very much. I bet you didn't plan on seeing Santa Claus in the middle of the year, did you? Good, good. You know, let's see, we're mostly women here today, and I'll go say this. How many of your husbands have beards or have had beards before? Let me see your hands. All right. How many of you liked them? Let me see your hands. All right. My wife never liked my beard until the white turned to green. When I got to wear when my beard turned to white, she started finding me a job. Now, I had been doing Santa Claus at that time for over 40 years. And I was reading some stuff, a brochure that I had in preparation for this week, and it said that I'd been doing Santa for over 40 years, and I said, I've got to revise that. I've been doing Santa now for over 50 years. And I got to thinking back, when was the first time that I ever got to play Santa? Well, the first time was when I was about, I guess, 14 or 15 years old. And the reason that I got to play Santa, because back then, economic times were pretty hard and pretty difficult. So at our house, you know, we got an apple, an orange, and nuts once a year, and that was at Christmas, in a stocking hung up. That was our real Christmas stock, not like it is today with the kids. And so my brother, who was younger than me, wanted an electric train. And Dad found a used electric train that he and I went out to the shed to keep for my younger brother, and we still oiled all the track and oiled all the train parts and put it together. So that was the first time that I really got involved in helping Santa and being part of Santa. But since then, we've had a lot of experiences, a lot of fun things, and a lot of times that have just really been tremendous. And dealing with children the way that I've been able to do, it's so much fun. And I tell people say, well, I might like to be Santa Claus. I say, well, if you love children, you can do it. If you don't like children, forget it, you know, because you'll hear everything. And the book she's talking about that I published is Things Kids Say to Santa, and it's 60 stories about things that have happened to me in the role of Santa. And it's not all kids. There are a lot of adult stories in there and things that have happened with adults also. But all of this has come about, and we're talking about the theme of the day is healing from within. And I wanted to kind of take you back and reflect back on some of the good times that you had. And if you think back, for most of you, and I know not for everybody, but for most of you, what was the best day of the year in your life? It was Christmas, wasn't it? Now, how many of you still believe in Santa? Can I see your hands? Now, and y'all have a real good Christmas, don't you? See, I tell people when I speak in a crowd like this and I ask that question, I say, now those of you who do not raise your hand, remember back to the first year that you didn't believe in Santa Claus, and instead of all the toys and all the goodies under the trees, it became shoes, socks, and underwear. Right? So that's the reason that I always get a positive response from a lot of people when I say, how many of you still believe in Santa Claus? Well, you see, making every day Christmas Day is something that you can do. Now, some days it's going to be much harder than other days. I like to use the example of when you're driving down the highway and somebody cuts you off. They cut in front of you, they cut you off, and you get so angry that you let it ruin your day. And probably the person that cut you off doesn't even realize what they did, and they're going on their happy way, just singing, listening to music, whatever, but you've let them ruin your day. Now, that didn't have to be. Them cutting you off, that probably had to be, but the way that you accepted it and the way that you dealt with it has to do with how your day goes. And this is something that deals not only with life, circumstances like that, but it has to do with health and sickness also. And regardless of what your position is in life, I think back to my grandmother Pollard several years ago, and by the way, I'll be 72 next month, so I can talk way back about a lot of things. But my grandmother Pollard, she was up in the years, late 60s, early 70s. And back then, they didn't have all this MRI and PET scans and all this kind of stuff. So they did an X-ray, and they said, Miss Pollard, you have a mass in your chest. Well, back then as today, the big C word was the scary word. And they said, Ms. Pollard, we can operate. We don't know how you'll come out of it. We don't know what your quality of life will be after the surgery. We don't know. It's a toss-up. So she said, I'll just take what I've got and live the rest of my days with it, and my quality of life will be good. Her pastor at her funeral said, I used to go to her house to cheer her up and make her feel good. Said that didn't work. Said she was cheering me up and making me feel good because of her attitude about life and what it was. And so you see, we have that ability to determine how we live our day. And I know it's difficult. I mean, there are days that I have difficulty with it. Ask that lady over there. She'll tell you real quick. But it's a question of, we've been having all kinds of car trouble. Man, I have torn up every car we got in the last 3 weeks. Mechanically. 3 cars. Yeah, right. 3 cars. And I'm telling you, you won't let it get you down? I'm driving 1,000 miles a week. I'm working right now for the DOT monitoring this cleanup. So I'm having to drive to Clinton every day and come work 12 hours, 13 hours, and come back. And this is 6 and 7 days a week right now. So I'm just wearing these cars out. Not wearing myself out, of course, you know, but wearing the cars out. So the other day, it was really getting me down. And finally, I went back to say, now, Lord, the cars are your responsibility. I'm doing what I believe that you want me to do. So therefore, they're not my responsibility, they're yours. Now, once I said that and believed it, the pressure left. It went. And I said, and she'll tell you, I've come home and I'm enjoying it. I'm out in the country with fresh air, and I can get out and walk, you know, and it's quiet. And I'm actually enjoying the part of the work. I said, it's just the hours, you know, that are getting me down. But we can control our feelings. My mother was the biggest worrier that there ever was. If she didn't have enough to worry about on her own, she'd get your problems and worry about them for you. You ever do that? Uh-huh. Well, you see, and I got to tell you, the Bible says don't worry, you know. And several years ago, there was a song that came out by Bobby McFerrin that says, be happy, don't worry. And boy, it had some good lines to it, too. And it was, you know, if we will adopt that philosophy or that theory, and I know you can't always do it. You know, I'm going to be practical with you. You can't always live every day and not worry about something. But you need to have this attitude of I'm not going to worry about everything else. And I'm not going to worry about everybody else's problems. That's where we get in trouble sometimes, worrying about everybody else's problems, you know. We think, well, they ought to be doing this, and that one ought to be doing that. And one of the things is, as we grow older, talk about myself in particular, we begin to learn that there are things that aren't going to change in people. I don't care how much you think they ought to, they're not. We've been married 48 years, and there's still some things I haven't changed with her. And she'll tell you the same thing about me, too. There are some things that she hasn't changed. And so, but we come to a point, there are things that we just accept them the way they are. And then we need to do that, you know. Okay, so you got cancer. You know, you can accept it or not. You know, you don't have to be down all the time. Just get aggressive about overcoming it. Have the quality of life that you can with what you've got. And that's what's so important when we think about it. And there's just so many things, so many people worry about why we are where we are. Well, you're there. Don't worry about how you got there. Worry about what you're going to do today and tomorrow. We have a saying about our house. We use shoulda, woulda, coulda. You ever heard that? You know, if we should have done that and we'd have this. Well, that's in the past. I can do nothing about what happened yesterday or the day before, but I can about today and I can about tomorrow. So it's important that we realize that. And you know, and back to the kids, sometimes thinking about how kids can bring happiness into your life and things. I had a kid jump up in my lap one day, and I'm sitting in the chair, and I did the malls for several years. I did one mall in Nashville for 5 years. I did the Fayette Mall in Lexington, and I did Opryland Hotel. Now, that was a real trip to do Opryland Hotel. I mean, they were there from all over the world. But I'm sitting at the mall in Nashville, and this kid jumps up in my lap, and his dad's standing right there next to me. He asked me a few questions, and I answered them for him, and he said, Santa, he said, can I ask you a question? I said, sure, son, go ahead. He said, who brought you toys when you were a kid? I thought for just a minute, and I said, well, son, I'm so old, and that was so long ago, I don't remember. And his dad said, great answer. But then there was a kid that jumped up in my lap, and he said, Santa, I've been good for the last 2 weeks. I said, well, you've only got 4 more to go, son. Hold on. And then there was the one that said, Santa, I'm on the good list or the bad list. I said, son, if you got to ask, you're in trouble. But they do, you know, they're just a barrel of fun to deal with. But laughter is so important in life. And the wife and I have been doing some research on laughter and healing and what it has to do. And in this thing on controlling your thoughts, you know, they say, psychologists, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor. I just tell everybody I'm here to try to make you laugh and be happy, you know. But that's important. That's real. Some people have a problem with Santa Claus, you know, because it's a fantasy. Now, some people think it's a fantasy. I think it's real. She'll tell you that. You know, she says, I've done it for so long, I think I am. Aren't I? You know. But some people have a problem with it. But I said, when I can walk in a room, white hair, white beard, and a red shirt, and I see eyes brighten up and smiles come across kids' faces, I said, I'm doing something right. You know, I'm doing something right. And that's true. But, you know, I've seen that they say that life goes full circle. We start out as a kid, and in a lot of cases we end up as a kid. And that's true. That's true. A lot of times when you're dealing with Alzheimer's, it's that way. And we need to, you know, I'm of the full opinion that we don't need to feel bad about being a kid again. I love being a kid. You know, and like Art Linkletter said, she's talking about my book, Things Kids Say to Santa. We did kind of take the title off of his book, Things Kids Say to, and we did kind of take that part of the title off of his book also. But when we go this full cycle, he says, you know, he loves talking to kids and people over 65. He said, kids don't know any better than to say what they're saying. People over 65 don't care. And I've gotten that way, you know. I'll just, you know, we just say our piece. In other words, you know, we just say what we feel. Now, sometimes I regret that I might have said it a little later on, you know, but it's all right to be a kid again. You know what was wrong with being a kid? My problem. I also speak to young men and women who are trying to make it in the business world and move on. And I say one of the things that we lose as we become adults is the ability to dream. See? And we let the world take our dream away from us. You ask a 4-year-old, can he be Batman and climb up a building? He'll tell you, yes, he can. Or can he be Superman and fly? And he'll say, yes, I can. Watch me climb that tree and show you. See, they've got the ability to dream. And let me tell you, the dreamers in the world are the ones that bring us the new products and the new thoughts and the new things. Would you ever hesitate to say that Bill Gates was not a dreamer? His dream was to put a computer in every home in the United States. And I think he's pretty well done it, if you want to know the truth. And to make it where everybody could use it. And these dreamers, I mean, I always love the story of the 3 guys that started the internet service here in Paducah. They started apex.net. Now, I remember those boys when they started that because I signed up with them all these years ago at one of these houses in downtown Paducah, and they had some wires strode everywhere and everything going. And the story is they started it so they could play games with each other over the internet. Well, now these 3 boys sold their business a little later on for $27 million. You know, so what's wrong with dreaming big? You know, not only dreaming, but dream big. And I think that we've got to keep our dream. And we have to keep it alive. You know, we may have a kid that's not doing the way we want them to do, and they may be an adult kid not doing the way we want them to do. But do we start dreaming and hoping that things are going to get right? No. No. You may not like what they're doing, but you have to accept it sometimes, don't you? But you keep praying for them, and you keep dreaming for them, and you keep hoping for them, and that's important that we do that. There's a song that some guys wrote several years ago that we knew, and the song was, "Don't let anybody steal your dream." And that's so important, that we don't let anybody take our dream away from us, that we don't let them steal our dream, and we think about that. Well, I'm supposed to cover a lot of stuff today, so we'll move on. We talked about it's okay to be a kid again, and then we need to. I want us to talk a little bit about researching the healing powers from within. Our body is an amazing thing. Body, I guess, is the word to use. But our body, if we will take care of it, I don't know of anything probably that it can't heal itself from, if we will allow it to. Sometimes we're too busy. I know that sometimes I'll get the feeling bad. Yesterday, for example. Now, like I said, I'm working out in the country, and I got a dose of diarrhea. Now, we're all adults, so we know we can talk about that, and we know what that is. And Crystal and I have talked that when I had my gallbladder taken out, it's supposed to solve that problem. It didn't, you know. Some of the rest of it didn't either, did it? You know. But here I am. I'm 20 miles out in the country, man, and I had to run into town twice, you know, and I took my medicine. But the best thing for me to solve that is just to be quiet. Just to set my chair back or my seat back and just relax and be quiet. And for it to go and let the body do itself, do its own thing, see. I'm always thought it's amazing to look around and see how that the body does do things. My nephew's wife was in a real bad automobile accident. He lost his son in it, but his wife had some real serious surgery. And I understand they're doing a lot of this now with some of the troops that are in the different parts of the world fighting. They literally put her hand inside her, sewed it inside her, said it would heal faster that way, some of the healing, and left it in there for several weeks. And it did. It's amazing, you know, what happened. And this was the body doing part of the healing process itself. So we see a lot of things that are happening. Well, there are a lot of things that are going on today, a lot of research, and one is laughter. We've researched laughter some, and we found out that there are major universities, medical centers, and hospitals studying the effects of laughter and positive things on healing. Some of the major hospitals now have actually what they have a laughter room, which is a room where they have a DVD player in it, and they have positive movies, shows where you can go in there 24/7. If you don't feel good, you can go in there and plug one in and watch it. They have actually done tests. They put all the wires to them and seen that there is a positive reaction to watching those, and that on certain ones there's a negative reaction. We make the joke at our house sometimes that we shouldn't watch that movie before we go to bed because of the type of movie that it is. But I think there are certain movies that we love to watch that I think are good. One is Patch Adams. You know, if you don't have it, you ought to get it, and when you feel down, go plug it in and watch it. And we love Sister Act. We laugh at those Sister Act movies. I mean, they are hilarious, and there's to me, having pastored, there is a good lesson to the Sister Act movies too, and that is if you want to reach a community, you got to go outside the door of the church into the community. You can't expect them to come into you until you go out to them, and that's one of the things that they did in that movie. But movies like that are hilarious, and they make you feel good, and they'll kind of get rid of the blues. Y'all know what the blues are? the newer generation might not know what the blues are, but I think you know what the blues are, and it'll help to get rid of them. So laughter is something that's being used, and one of the ways that you can also help yourself is turn off the TV and quit watching and reading so much negative news. You know, if you really want to get up and have a bad day, just get up and listen to all the bad news in the morning. You know, it's because they don't give you much good news. You know what they'll tell you? Good news don't sell. I don't know why, but man, it's this. And we lived in South Florida for 21 years, and man, it was murders and robberies and everything else going on down there constantly. And we came up here, thought we was getting back away from it. When we came back home, no, we didn't. It caught up. But you need to quit reading all the bad news, quit watching all the bad news, quit listening to it. And I've heard of some people who've just literally got rid of their TV and turned the radio off, you know, and quit subscribing to the newspaper and just started reading positive, good things so that you have good thoughts. Now, it's not going to make them all go away out there, but it's going to keep them out of your world. So you can encompass, you can build your own world around yourself and get to feeling better as a result of it. And again, too many times when you're watching that bad news, what are you doing? You're worrying about their problems, aren't you? And most of the time you probably got enough of your own that you don't need to go out and get somebody else's. But we need to think about turning off the news. Well, not only laughter, but how many of you was in the session a while ago next door with the dogs? All of you. I don't need to say too much about that then, do I? But pet therapy is really something that's becoming big in the hospitals and the nursing homes, and people relate to them. Somebody said that, you know, that you can be the meanest, nastiest man that there is to your dog, and your dog still loves you unconditionally. Yeah, you think about that. Man, I'd start driving down the way and my dog comes barking. Or the best thing is I get on my tractor and man, she's ready to go. Several years ago, 5 years ago, I fell and broke my hip at 6:45 on Saturday morning, July the 3rd, in my driveway. She's in the house fixing breakfast, and I'm coming down off a ladder and thought I was on the last step, and I wasn't, and I fell and hit the concrete. The minute I hit, right on the hip, I knew what I'd done. I tried to move. I hollered a couple of times, and I said to myself, she can't hear me. She's in there fixing breakfast. She'll come out a little while to tell me breakfast is ready. So I just laid there. But the funniest thing was, my cat that I had at the time came right up next to me and took the attack position to protect me until she came out to get me. And I thought that was the cutest thing. I have a friend of mine who died of a stroke. He lived in Nashville, but he had the stroke in Knoxville, and he had a little pet poodle that they had adopted. And Little Bit, he called him. And every day he'd come in from work, and Little Bit would jump up in the chair beside him. Or Little Bit would stay in his chair when he wasn't there. When he died, that dog never got in that chair again. Like he knew, you know. But he never got in that chair again after he died, which I thought was pretty amazing. But pets, you know, any kind of a pet has a great therapy for people who are sick. In nursing homes, they're using them today, and it's great that they are, because you know it gives a sense of friendship, and everybody needs a friend. You know, I don't care who they are, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about also. But not only animals, and by the way, you know, I've been reading some things, and you may have read some things about it, that they're actually using, they're experimenting, or they're trying to use animals to diagnose sickness, which I think is pretty unique, and I don't understand it. Like I say, I'm not a doctor. I just do a lot of reading, you know, and I'm always trying to read what's cutting edge and what's out there. But it's one of the things that they're doing that they've said that there have been cases where the dog or the cat was able to sense an illness before the doctor did, which I think is pretty unique also, and that they're able to do that. All right, now then, not only that, but touching is another thing. Holding hands, you know. And another thing I like to talk about is hugging. Now, when I pastored a church that was probably 50% elderly. I can use that term since I are one, you know. But two things that I had them do at the close of every service. I had them hold hands and sing a song, and then I told them they couldn't leave until they hugged 10 people. Now think about that. That's the only hugs that some people got during the week, see? And hugs are important. They're very important. And so I said, at least you go to get hugged on Sunday morning. You know, and that was one of the things that I made them do before they left. Now, in the first time or two, you know, they well, now what are we doing? You know, it's something new. And I got to tell you, my family was not a hugging family. That was something that we had to learn to do. And I'm sure that as I look around and I see the white hair and the age of a lot of people, your families weren't hugging families either, were you? I said, I don't recall my dad ever telling me that he loves me, but I never doubted it by his actions. But we were just not a family that did that. So we've had to learn that through the years, you know, to hug and tell each other we love them. We talk to our kids. We never hang up without saying we love you, and they do. And just it's something that you know you do, but you need to tell them you do. You know, because we all love to hear that somebody loves us. By the way, you see that card that I put on your table for you there? Look at it. And it's so important. It says, "You're special. There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal," wrote C.S. Lewis. It's true, each of us is a special creation of God. Amen. See? And we love passing these out. We have a little gospel tract like that says you're special that we pass out a lot. I'll use it when I go through the bank, drive-in at the bank or different places. And I remember going through the drive-in at U.S. Bank downtown Paducah, and I slipped one in the thing and sent it through the thing. And the lady opened it up, and she took that thing, and she looked at it, and she held it to her heart and said, "Thank you." See, everybody likes to know they're special. And we are all special. We need to understand that. We are all special. And that's real important that we need to know that. So holding hands is important. Hugging is important also, as I said. And then you'll see that D on the list there is prayer. I'm a firm believer in prayer. Prayer does work. And we've got case after case to where we know that it does work. And always remember that no is an answer. See, so many times we pray, we're praying for yes, but no is an answer. We need to remember that and understand that. And it goes, how many times did we have to tell our kids, no, you're not going to get this, you're not going to have that, we're not going there, blah, 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 blah. I'm praying today that the kids get more yeses than they do no's. But I said, there was one thing about our kids. When they were growing up, they'd want something. I said, no. And finally, if I said, "Son, I just don't have the money for it," then he understood. And he stopped wanting it, see? So our kids have done well. Some of you know our daughter. She has the coffee shop at Kirchhoff's downtown. And our son is in Florida in the air conditioning business. Of all places to be in the air conditioning business, I guess that's the best, is in South Florida. But prayer still works. And we pray for our kids daily. We pray for each other daily. And we need to do that. We need to pray for each other daily. And that's real important. Then music. Now, I understand that the last session this afternoon is going to be on music. I kind of said that our session is a synopsis of all the other sessions. We're going to, so because you can't make them all, but we're going to hit the highlights on the sessions here today. Music is very important. And music can control your attitudes and your feelings also. And that's the reason it's important, that type of music that we listen to. And as we think about how important music is, Hippocrates used music as healing as far back as when he was alive. That Mozart effect is something that we hear today in healing and part of music. And then it's interesting that some of you younger ones remember that when you were having children, that the doctors told you to play music for your baby while it was still in the womb. And now when you get your packet to go home from the hospital, most of them contain DVDs of music for your babies. And so music is real important. Someone once said music calms the beast in the soul, you know. But music is real important in controlling your feelings. And so I would say use it and listen, you know, spend time listening to music. And then the next one that you'll see on your list there is one that I don't pay too particular attention to. Exercise. But exercise is important. It's important for our body. You'll notice that I have on there a Wii. The nursing homes today are using Wiis to a big advantage. Now, I don't have a Wii. I mean, and they just keep coming out with all kinds of new stuff. I was reading the other day, they've got gloves that you put on, like boxing gloves now, that have the attachments on them. And then they got the exercise boards and the bowling. I get tickled at one of the ads I saw from one of the nursing homes. It was an elderly lady said, "Well, I like to box." But it gives you an opportunity. See, I think that learning should be fun. And not only should learning be fun, but exercise should be fun. And so the Wiis makes exercise fun when you use them. And there are other boxes out there that have the different things. But these are things that are important in healing. I debated whether to tell you all this or not, but these pants that I have on, I think they're about 30 years old. The problem is, for the last 25 years, I couldn't put them on. But I've lost 25 pounds since Christmas, you know, and I said, I'm going to take those off the shelf, out of the closet, and see if I can get in them. And I could. Made me feel good, you know, that I could get in them. But, you know, when you have, I loved watching. I don't watch reality shows. I've never had one that I really liked until this last, The Biggest Loser. Now, I enjoyed watching that father-son team, and that boy really worked and took off a lot of, I don't know who the final winner was because I didn't get to watch that issue, but you know, to watch them do that marathon and struggle to do through it and to do it, you know. But it was, but we do need to exercise, and my wife stays on me all the time about doing it. And I don't do it like I should, but exercise is something, and we is one of the ways that we can do it. But we need to exercise our mind also. You'll notice things that I have there about exercising our mind. Puzzles. You know, we love to work puzzles. Well, we got in one earlier this year that we had to put away. We couldn't get it finished. I mean, we don't like the real difficult ones. We like the medium level, you know. But puzzles are good. And then crossword puzzles. She does crossword puzzles. I don't. I like the word choice, word search, you know. I'll do those, you know. I like to do those. And then the computer. How many of you have a computer? How many of you use it? Okay, good. I have found, and she says I've become addicted to the computer, but I have found that the computer is really a way to keep my mind going, you know. But games and reading, if you want to find something out, it's on that internet somewhere, you know, and you can find it. And there are a lot of places to find information and stay up with what's going on. In fact, before we came here today, I was going through and I saw this new thing in there, and it was about jobs. And it had a job there. It's talking about 4 good jobs that are available in these hard times. One of them I'd never heard of. Now, some of you ladies may have heard of it, but it's called a doula. You know what a doula is? You know? And it says that's a good job to be training for right now. By the way, for those of you who don't know, like I didn't know, it says that doulas are trained to provide physical, emotional, and informational guidance to mothers before, during, and after birth. I would almost say the old term would be a midwife. Okay? But another one was an environmental scientist. Now, I don't think any of us are looking to be that. There's some young ones in here maybe. And the other was an entrepreneur. And it said that, of course, I think we've always known that entrepreneurship is a viable profession in any economy because it's the entrepreneurs that get out there and make things happen a lot of times. by starting your own. It said that interesting fact that CEOs at 43% of the Inc. 500 companies said they begin their companies with less than $10,000. And then another one, which I was surprised at, is an event planner. Said that that's a good profession to have right now. And and we know what event planners are, I'm sure. But event planner, that was the 4 jobs that they listed on Yahoo this morning as good places to look for, for jobs. But I just kind of threw that in. But we talked about the computer, we talked about games, all kinds of games, and we have a saying on our TV show. How many of you get Comcast TV? Come on now. That's all that can watch our show. Online, that's right. See, my producers are back there. But you can go online and watch. It's Paducah2.org, right? And then go to the TV section, and the 2 is the number 2. Well, you've got both of them, don't you, now? You got the 2 and the number. Paducah2.org, and our shows are online, and you can just stream them in and watch them online. And it's just another way that you can watch our show. But as I started to say, the way that we always close our show is with the statement, use it or lose it. And that works for your mind and your body. Use it or lose it. You know, you may get up in the morning and feel like you can't put one foot in front of the other one. But if you sit down and don't put one foot in front of the other one, you're not going to. But if you get up and do it, you'll be able to move on through the day. And I say the same thing with your mind. You have to keep your mind functioning. You have to keep using it, whether it's reading, working puzzles, working games, whatever it is, working on the computer. You've got to keep using your mind. Research has shown that that is one of the best ways that you can fight Alzheimer's, is by continually doing things like this and using your mind. And it's okay to forget things too. I mean, I think that just goes with age. I don't think that's Alzheimer's. You know, we have a saying at our house that we spend half of our time looking for what it is that we want. Y'all have experienced that too, I see. But that's one of the things that we do. Well, I got about 5 minutes left, and I think we've pretty well covered the outline. But let me share some stories with you and some other things that I brought that I like to share. This one here I picked up the other day at the car shop. It said a reporter was interviewing a 104-year-old woman and asked, "What do you think is the best thing about being 104 years old?" She simply replied, "No peer pressure." Another thing is the nice thing about senile is that you can hide your own Easter eggs. And this one is pretty good. It says, "I feel like my body has gotten totally out of shape, so I got my doctor's permission to join a fitness club and start exercising. I decided to take an aerobics class for seniors. I bent, twisted, gyrated, jumped up and down, and perspired for an hour. But by the time I got my leotards on, the class was over." This one says, "My memory is not as sharp as it used to be." Also, my memory is not as sharp as it used to be. On this one I like. "Know how to prevent sagging? Just eat till the wrinkles fill out." This one is cute. "It's scary when you start making the same noises as your coffee maker." And always remember this: you don't stop laughing because you grow old. You grow old because you stop laughing. So important. But we have, we collect these things and things that kids have said. Here's one here. It says, "Never trust a dog to watch your food." One of the best ones that I've collected through the years is the story that happened at a Catholic elementary school. They had someone had donated a box of apples, and so they had them sitting at the end of the food table. At the front of the table, they had a box of cookies, and on the cookies there was a sign that said, take only one, God is watching. So by the time they got down to the other box, some bright child had written a little note and said, take all the apples you want, God's watching the cookies. Here's another one that says, when your dad is mad and asks, do I look stupid? Don't answer. There's just so many of them here that we go over. It says, never hold a dustbuster and a cat at the same time. And you can't hide a piece of broccoli in a glass of milk. And if you want a kitten, start out by asking for a horse. But never try to baptize a cat. These kids, they just come up with stuff after stuff after stuff, and so many funny things that they come up with. Oh, my wife loves this one. In fact, my daughter had some tea towels at her shop that said this. It said, 3 wise men would have asked directions, arrived on time, and helped deliver the baby. 3 wise women. Thank you. Right. Said they would have cleaned the stable, made a casserole, brought practical gifts, and there would be peace on earth. Okay, ladies, this is for you. It's kind of lengthy, but we'll finish out here in just a minute. It says, when I'm an old lady, I'll live with each kid and bring so much happiness just as they did. I want to pay back all the joy they provided, returning each deed. Oh, they'll be so excited when I'm an old lady and live with the kids. I'll write on the wall with reds, whites, and blues, and I'll bounce on the furniture wearing my shoes. I'll drink from the carton and then leave it out. I'll stuff all the toilets, and oh, how they'll shout when I'm an old lady and live with the kids. When they're on the phone and just out of reach, I'll get into things like sugar and bleach. Oh, they'll snap their fingers and shake their head, and when that's done, I'll hide under the bed when I'm an old lady and live with my kids. When they cook dinner and call me to eat, I'll not eat my green beans or salad or meat. I'll gag on my okra, spill milk on the table, and when they get angry, I'll run if I'm able when I'm an old lady and live with the kids. I'll sit close to the TV. Through the channels I'll click. I'll cross both eyes just to see if they stick. I'll take off my socks and throw one away and play in the mud till the end of day when I'm an old lady and live with my kids. And later in bed, I'll lay back and sigh. I'll thank God in prayer and then close my eyes. My kids will look down with a smile slowly creeping and say with a groan, she's so sweet when she's sleeping. I thought you would like that. And then the one that I like to close with, because I feel like that this is so important when we think about it. How many of you ever heard the poem, The Dash? You know, the first time I heard this, I thought how great, and then I went researching and found it. It's called The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of her birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between the years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved her know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left. You could be at dash mid-range. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your little dash? Thank you.